So, do we want to talk about Age of Calamity?
Do we?
50 minutes?
Boy,
50-minute presentation, right? We saw some really cool collector's edition. I think they showed off quite a bit of gameplay, I would say, and they also talked about
edition.
Yeah, check that thing out. And some of the gameplay, it looks a lot better than Hyrule Warriors. I will say that. Like this game makes Hyrule Warriors look kind of bad at times. This is a really good looking game
it's
for
kind of not
a game. This looks good.
It's kind of not fair to compare them. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm
like one was made like with like a shoestring budget type of like, hey, let's just get something like, you know, let's try something kind of different on the Wii U. Then the other one was actually like legit, like, hey, this is going to be canon part of the game, and like, you know, this is something that people actually want to play because it sold extremely well, Hyrule Warriors, for even better than they thought it would with all the versions of the game.
It looks like the story. It looks like there's actually quite a bit here. I was trying to figure out how much, because it's like a dinosaur style game, so cutscenes and all this. I'm like, all right, how much is gonna be there? It looks like a legit amount of story for people who are really into the lore. This is gonna be a game that they're gonna have to go over for quite a while. Just what they showed during the 50 minutes of play here.
I think it's the best looking Switch game of 2020. Like, what else? What are you gonna put up next to that?
Mario 3D All Stars.
Come on.
Galaxy does look pretty good.
I mean, they look good. I'm talking about like the best game. You know what I'm saying?
Came out this year.
I mean, you can say Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing looks pretty good experience than an actual game, though. You know,
to Sean's point, though, I think the biggest difference with this one, like Hyrule Warriors, or if you play the Dynasty Warriors games, unless you play the newer ones, but it always seemed like you were like just like there's like these segments, like the old school Monster Hunter, and you're just going through these segments. This is actually seems like it's like an open world, and you're just running around and you're fighting and you're like doing little puzzle things and side stuff. So it just feels like the scope and scale is just way larger because you always saw like walls in Hyrule Warriors. Like there were fields and stuff, but you saw where it was closed off. This one, it feels like Breath of the Wild. Like they just drop you in there and then you're just like fighting like a real like war with all these different type of enemies, you know, and bosses and stuff. So, you know, if they're looking to expand upon the combat, like if the combat wasn't like your thing in Breath of the Wild, this one seems like it's like a lot better, you know.
I think it all looks pretty impressive from the stuff we're seeing. Like I think last time we talked about it, I thought we all pretty much agree that it was pretty smart to do it in a Warriors style game, especially for this type of combat. I purposely didn't watch a lot of the gameplay today because it's like, the game's about to come out anyway. I just want to experience it. I'm sold on the trailer. I'm sold on the lore. The trailer today that dropped, giving us more of the champions and how important they are to the story, and some really cool shots of them all working together and how them controlling the divine beasts. This is exciting. This is big for Zelda right now. This is lore that is going to not only fill in these, you know, gaps in the first game, but potentially lead us in with some characters and ideas that go into the sequel. And if this is how much they're doing in this game with story to build into there, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the sequel game. Then I feel like that game's going to have a new, like, big, heavy base story compared to Breath of the Wild 1, where it's more of like, here's loose parts of it, you kind of put some of it together, but it's not the crutch of that game. I
think you're right about that, Jordan. I think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to have a heavy story focus.
I think based on that
like
teaser
telling
trailer
it in front of you, cutscenes and all, I think it's going to be pretty serious.
Based on the teaser trailer we got, you know, forever ago of 2, and then based on what we're seeing with Calamity here, I think we're in store for a lot of big things for Zelda in the next year and a half, story wise and lore wise. So I'm excited. So that's just
OJ?
A question.
Oh, he fell asleep.
I was gonna ask a question on like, because like they said that the game that Mr. Numa, he actually asked them to make it like shortly after Hyrule Warriors. So the game has been in development for a while. So this game has been in development for a while. Like
he has a whole vision in mind.
So do you think like do you think that like they purposefully made Breath of the Wild kind of like the game like where you just get introduced and then like now this is like the story time for like the prequel and for Breath of the Wild too?
Yes, there's a lot of elements that you can kind of go into with Zelda that if you rush through the game or you kind of just read through things really quickly and you don't pay attention, there are a lot of like kind of species and a lot of tribes of that existed in Hyrule that are even before the time that are placed in Breath of the Wild that we don't even get to see. So there's a lot of theories going on that there are a lot of elements that we don't even know the beginning of. Like I genuinely think that with Hyrule Warriors, you know, being a very lore heavy game, and kind of having the gameplay, in my opinion, is going to be a secondary thing. Like, the cool thing about Hyrule Warriors is we're going to get to play as characters that we've always wanted to play as from Breath of the Wild and get to see their crazy kits. And the fact that you're going to get to see them as powerful against all these enemies and then lose to the blights at the end, it's going to be so heart-wrenching, dude, because it's like you got to like kind of experience it with them. But I genuinely think that there's going to be a lot of questions that we didn't even know existed in in the first Breath of the Wild, that when 2 appears, like it's like there are going to be things in the prequel that are going to set up questions that we didn't even know to be asking in Breath of the Wild that are going to be answered in 2. And honestly, I like get chills thinking about it, because it's just, he had this whole like map out, you know, like ahead, and like launching the trailer saying that 2 was in development before even talking about this one made this one's hype that much more, because we had like almost a year just sitting on 2. Where's 2? Where's 2? And then we find out we're also getting a second game on top of 2. I
have a crazy theory about how this is all going to play off, and this just gets me excited. And now it's not going to happen. I'll be disappointed. But so the teaser trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, it's Zelda and Link, and they're going down, and then Ganon is somehow resurrecting in some form, right? He's dead but not dead. Something's happening. I think that there's so much emphasis on the champions in this game that they're going to end the game with a flash forward to what we just saw in Breath of the Wild 2's teaser, that Ganon's coming back. There's a way to bring the champions back, and all the champions are going to come back to life. If they're making this big of an emphasis on them in the story-wise, which they are really important regardless if they came back or not, I think that there's so much love for these characters that if they can bring Ganon back again from the dead for what's ever happening, there has to be a way you can bring some of the champions back or all of them back.
Jordan, as much as I would love
not that I don't want to retcon things like, oh, everyone could just come back, but I mean, like, who knows? I've seen crazier things happen.
We kind of have like the successors to the champions of each of the, the different tribes. You have your Goron, your Rito, your Gerudo. Like, you kind of have those successors. So I don't know, like, maybe we'll get to obviously see more of those successors. I genuinely think Ganondorf's, or if that's even his name, I think that, he's in a special case. And I think that the main thing is going to kind of be revolving around whatever magic, element is surrounding the body, why the malice is still seeping from that body. Like, if it's a power source or whatever it is, I think he's going to be a special case. I would love for the Guardians or the champions to come back, but I feel like maybe that's a little bit too perfect.
No, for sure. I just think, like,
it'd be cool.
I don't know. I just started smelling something in the air, and I was like, you know what? If it smells like pie, it could be pie. So
they're dead. They're dead. They're not coming back.
Dead is dead.
I thought the same thing in Torna. I'm like, hey man, something's gonna happen. No, they all died.
Listen, I'm all for a dark story. Okay.
And Power got sunk to the bottom of the ocean, and I thought, Adam's gonna come back. Nah, Adam dead.
Oh, no.
They're all dead, and you play as Rex.
Listen, dude, I just think it's cool that we get to see Impa. We didn't see Pyrrha. I didn't watch the full. Actually, why I was late is because I didn't get to see any of the footage all day today. So I came home, hung out. We had a patron thing, and then I literally watched all of the trailer and then like the 13 minutes of footage or whatever. But Impa looks great, and I think it's cool that they paid so much attention. It's kind of like Sakurai, with Smash. He pays attention to the kits and fitting in with the characters. I think it's cool that with Hyrule Warriors, it's kind of the same thing. They really put into thought how these kits fit to these characters and what weapons they're using in kind of correlation to them. And I think one of the coolest touches that's so simple is with Impa. When she like disappears and she's dashing around, her hat just floats there. And it's the coolest thing. And like then she picks it up and just gently places it on her back. And I'm like, small details like that, like, ooh, baby, I'm so excited.